Yeah, that's recording. All right,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, welcome back to the Ping Pong Show. We do this little debate show. We've got some familiar faces that have been on before, Vidal and Daniel, with the additional guests of Rory and Gavin. Rory, Gav, do you want to introduce yourselves? Rory, go on, you say a couple lines.
Okay, so if anyone doesn't know me, I'm a table tennis player. I live in England, from Ireland, probably play more tournaments than anybody else. And I'm a full-time coach, number 2 vet in Ireland, and I referee tournaments as well.
Nice one. Gav?
Yeah, so Gavin Maguire. I'm also Irish, currently living in Dublin and working as the Irish national para coach. And my history is as a professional table tennis player in the Irish men's team. And I've played against everybody on this call, bar Vidal.
Vidal's from another generation.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you hear that, V?
Yeah, of course I can hear, mate.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
I don't think Rory had to introduce himself. If you don't know Rory, do you really involved in table tennis or what?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, cool. All right, so everyone knows how it works. We've each got one question. We don't know what the questions are going to be. All we ask is that we're open, honest, and respectful. Actually, no, you don't have to be respectful. Just open and honest. But yeah, all right, let's crack on. So I'll go first. So my question is, if you were to win the Euro Millions, would you still be involved in table tennis? And if so, in what capacity? And I'll answer last, and I want Daniel to answer first.
Good question, that is. Yeah, to be open and honest, I probably would be involved in table tennis, but in my own leisure, so I'll probably be abroad I'll try and get a job in a hotter country, that's for sure, so I can enjoy the beach and stuff after when I finish coaching. I'll probably coach less hours and more of the hours I really enjoy coaching. Currently, I coach a lot of hours. I'll probably say I enjoy 50, 60% of the hours I coach. 30 to 40% I probably don't enjoy as much as my job. So I'll probably, yes, I'll be involved in table tennis, but the capacity that I love, and coach the people I really like working with, and do all the things I really like doing, rather than doing the things that I sometimes have to do because it's part of my job. So the answer, very easy. Yes, definitely. I love table tennis, but I would pick and choose what I wanted to do. I wouldn't have to do some things. Basically, I would be self-employed, coaching how I want to coach. So, yeah.
Cool. Rory?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'd still be playing all the tournaments. Coaching, yeah, I'd still be coaching. I probably wouldn't be doing the early mornings, and any kind of bad behavior or whatever, I wouldn't, that'd be it. That'd be gone. I'd be just focusing on people who actually wanted to play regularly and improve. Refereeing, probably would stop refereeing. Organizing my club, I don't know, maybe a little less than I do, but yeah, certainly definitely be playing and doing coaching.
All right, V?
I think you lot are full of it, to be honest. It depends on how much you win, innit?
You said Euro Millions.
Yeah, Euro Millions is ridiculous amounts, isn't it? So we're talking like 40 mil upwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm buying an island somewhere and chilling for the rest of my life.
Does it have a table on it?
Table tennis, I'll probably open my own centre and hire people to run it. But that's about it. Coaching myself would be very, very limited. If I wanted to step in the hall and maybe do a bit, yeah, it'd feel more like a charity thing if I'm doing it, to be honest. Yeah.
Cool.
Now, big house, own island, chilling somewhere, relaxing, that'd be it. Look after the family first, family life,
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to change my answer slightly based on Vidal's, actually. I was going to say that all of us are crazy enough to be table tennis coaches, and we're in a small sport, so it's clear that none of us are in it for the money. But maybe I've got to change one person on the call, maybe might be in it for one reason or another, I don't know. No, I think 100% I'd still be involved if I won, and like Vidal said, it's a massive amount of money, so I would certainly spend a lot of it on myself and my own personal satisfaction and look after my family. But yeah, there would be a pot of money for me to open up my own table tennis centre and a club and try to do some good, because obviously it's a minority sport in Ireland, especially we're totally underfunded. So yeah, I'd like to be able to do some good things with the money as well, and leave a legacy behind me. can't enjoy all the money yourself.
Yeah, that's it. Imagine having a centre with your name on the top. That's what I mean. You know? Having your own centre, middle of sort of like, for me, it'd probably be middle of central London somewhere. Big building, like big warehouse, just full of about 50 tables. You know? Own centre, that'd be the dream, innit?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they've inspired me. Yeah, that's I'm adding that to my answer now as well. My own centre.
Yeah,
And they could run it for, if I won it, they could run it for me.
that's it.
Would you have your own centre on Vidal's Island, or where would it be?
It'd be on my island and Vidal would run it. I'm sure he'd like my island anyway.
That's it.
All right, yeah, no, before I pass it on to Basti for his question, I'll just answer mine. The reason why I asked it is because I've gone through, like, if you asked me 2 years ago when I was still coaching, I'd have been like, no way. As soon as you win, I want nothing to do with this. But look, I've left table tennis coaching, but I'm still involved in table tennis because my friends are involved in table tennis. So doing this is like a percentage of I'm involved. You know what I mean? And I play the ping pong once a year. So my original answer was no, I got too much money. I don't want nothing to do with it. But in truth, I'm still kind of involved, but it's a tiny percentage. So I'll probably be the same. I'll probably do the same thing. But I would never put my money back in table tennis. No way. Vito, are you mad? No way.
No, you have to, like, I think it's just a matter of, I've seen sort of like the club that I grew up in and what it done for me, you know, for like my whole playing career and then coaching career. And then if you could like build a centre and I'd let kids play for free, you know, like you don't have to worry about it. It's paid, you got nothing to build. You only got to worry about electricity bill and you're a multi-millionaire. Who's going to care about that? Like, you know, just let them play for free and do some good, you know?
All right, just to end off, because it's my question, I'm going to have the final word. I will not do it, but I would put, if I was to build a centre in England, table tennis England, I have to match every penny I put in as well. Fair dues. All right, cool. Basti, your question, mate.
That's good. It's a good question to start with. That is, mine's a bit more, a bit more table tennis, and hopefully one of our dreams does come true. But my question is, I was going to say England, but now I'm going to say Britain, as we've got two Irishmen on here. So
Well, we're actually not in Britain, Daniel. Just have to let you know that.
Correct.
oh, but okay.
British
As
Isles.
a man that qualifies for an Irish
Okay,
passport,
okay,
you should know
all
that
right.
yourself.
That's a tricky one. Okay, so you can speak about Ireland if you want, Gav, or you can speak about the UK. I know you're over here enough. So my question is, what do you think of the current tournament structure in the UK? Do you think it's good or bad, and what would you change? So basically, do you think it's good or bad, or is it okay? And what would you change if you could change anything? And Rory, you can answer my question first.
I actually think it's pretty good. As you know, I go to most tournaments, and you can go to a tournament pretty much whatever weekend you want, which tends to be most weekends for me, but other people could pick and choose. And there's lots of opportunities, lots of different options. You can play in different levels, like 1-star, 2-star Grand Prix, and then the same with juniors. You got different age groups. There's different formats, round robins, knockouts. Then you got your team events like British League, Vets British League, Women's British League, Junior British League, National Cadet League, National Junior League. I think it's actually really good. Then you got local leagues. You can, I think I registered in about 9 different local leagues last season, and you can just pick and choose what matches you can play in. I think it's better than most other countries where you only have one. You can only play in one league, and it's usually at weekends, once a month. And I think what they should do is bring back the restricted singles at the Grand Prix, because at the end of the day, they're adult tournaments, and people in the kind of adult age category who aren't veterans haven't got their own singles event on the Sunday afternoon. Whereas the other age groups can choose to play their own event, or they can play doubles. The seniors either play doubles or don't play at all. So that's one thing. But yeah, I don't really, and there's county championships, I didn't mention that as well, county championships for different age groups. Maybe one thing on that would be to bring in an under-13s county championships team, so that you can engage younger people, because you often lose them to other sports because they have under-13s county teams. But yeah, I think it's pretty good, is my answer.
Hey, Gav?
Yeah, if I've got to speak about the UK and Ireland, I suppose, I've obviously been involved in both countries and both scenes. So in terms of Ireland, I know that the tournaments at the moment, they're not that attractive for the average player. You know, I would say that 90% of the people that play a tournament in Ireland at the moment don't get a great deal out of it. The ranking system is a little bit flawed. You don't get that many matches. The fees are high. There's a lot of waiting around. You know, so the organisation of it all really needs to change and needs to get better, I think. And that's not an easy job. That's not a criticism of the volunteers who are in there. But the structure certainly has to change in that respect, I think, because at the end of the day, the associations are run for the players. They're run for the members. So the members have to be getting something out of the tournament. So I think on a lower scale, there needs to be more matches, you know, less waiting around. Like Rory said, restricted singles, those kind of events where people can play a lot of games. That's really important. But then as you move up the scale, I think less events for the top players, but on a bigger scale, like a little bit like Grand Slams as such. You wouldn't call them Grand Slams. We're not quite there yet, but
like a Masters.
Yeah, something along those lines. You know, where it can create a bit of a spectacle for the big players, and that might draw in some sort of crowd or revenue or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I just think there's too many events that are geared towards that don't give people what they want from the events, you know. And I think it's maybe a little bit different in England. There seems to be a lot of opportunities, like Rory said, in leagues and county championships. There's a lot of that we're lacking in Ireland, and that's stuff I'd love to see brought here. So I think England and Britain has it good in that sense. But again, probably could do more in terms of big events to draw in spectacle and get more going in that sense. You know, like the nationals and stuff like that. It looks good from my perspective, sitting looking in. I know there's lots of people who think there's flaws and qualification process is a joke, and I've heard all those kind of arguments. But it looks good for someone looking in from the outside, and I think more events of that stature would be good.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Nice. V?
Yeah, it's definitely not where it should be. I think for me, I'll talk about juniors first. It helps because I'm more on the junior sort of side. I think that there's a lot of times where like people can almost play a system, and you get like very, very good players turn up to like these 1-star events and 2-star events just to like pick up points to try to help qualify for nationals and stuff like that. So I'd like to see a system put in place where you can only play a tournament if you're of a certain level. So say, for instance, you're on rank list, you're under 500 points, you play in that 1-star tournament. If you got like 700 points and you play in a 2-star, if you're over 1,000 points, you play in a 4-star. And then like you'd have smaller venues, so that Table Tennis England wouldn't have to pay so much for like these big venues. You could have smaller venues, you could have more players playing inside, like you would play more games, you know, and all of players of your own level. So sort of like what Junior British League does in dividing the leagues, but each league would almost be its own sort of like tournament for the year until like you move up. And if you win like your 1-star tournament and then you win 2 of them, so you gain enough points, now you're in all the 2-star tournaments, you know, so then you progress. So it's a bit ridiculous how it is right now. Literally the number sort of like 1 or 2 in England could turn up to a 1-star tournament and play an absolute beginner, you know, and that should never be able to happen, you know, at any sort of stage. And I think for senior events, I think the Grand Prix, again, Rory's right, restricted, they need their own one. But I think it's a bit funny because like, I remember when I was playing and there was more money in winning a Grand Prix when I used to play, and we're talking 20 years later and the money's gone down. I don't know how that's actually possible. Like winning a Grand Prix, it's less money now, you know? And we're meant to be in a financial better place, and it's just a bit of a cop-out, really.
Nice. Ash?
Yeah, Vidal nicked a couple of my answers there. Yeah, I think one of the changes to the juniors, obviously with the number 1 being able to play a 1-star and stuff like that, it kind of having a rating on the tournaments kind of makes it meaningless. So that obviously needs to be looked at, and I agree with V. And the prize money, like Vidal says, hasn't gone up or maybe even gone down if you count inflation over the years. So just when you said that question, I just split it up into like juniors. I'd say it's very, very good, quite good, because I had a good time going all around the country playing plenty of tournaments. Adults socially, probably quite decent as well. We've got a decent Grand Prix circuit, because at the end of the day, it's not the biggest sport. But for aspiring professionals or professional players, it's extremely poor, and that's probably why they go abroad and play abroad. So that's just my answer from what you said.
Yeah, nice. I asked this question because every time like, this debate comes up, obviously I'm working at Greenhouse, so where do we take the kids? Working with someone that's probably a beginner all the way up to someone that's probably top 10 in England currently. And the biggest issue I find with like I think the 1 stars and the 2 stars are not the problem. I think they're good. I think lots of people are attending and they're fine. I agree with Vidal's point and obviously the point I'm sure Gav and Ash agree with. I'm not sure about Rory yet, but you can't have someone number 1 in England turning up just to win a 1 star. I think it looks ridiculous and it's not fair. And if I remember taking a couple of kids to Bats. Bats always have a good prize money, which is great. I mean, they do something well at Bats and it's a wicked tournament. But I remember taking someone that's been playing about 6 months and they go on and play against someone that's number 3, 4 in the country. And it's like, and then you're looking at it, it looks embarrassing. And both people are not winning. So yeah, that's one of my points, is why I asked the question. Another of my points is like, what would I change? Working with a lot of people that are not currently number 1 in the country, but they're not number 100. I'm working with a lot of people ranked between 10 and probably 80. And what happens every time I go to a 4-star or half decent 2-star is they'll get their group, they'll win 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. First round, they'll play the number 1 in England and lose 3-0. And there's not enough matches where they're playing under constant pressure. They're never, like when you go to France or you're watching France or you're watching any good league, the kids are getting to play people that are their level and they're winning 3-2, losing 3-2. The system's great. And like, if I was to change something, I would change a 4-star and I would have like, this is kind of Jason's idea. I'll probably have it slightly different to Jason, but Jason was speaking about having promotion and relegation. So similar to what Vidal said, but you'd have 32 players in the country. If you finished outside the top 32 over 4 events, outside the top 30, so 2 people get relegated and you can play 32 to 64. Then you could play 64 to whatever, and you could go up like that. And at least you go to these events and you're playing someone. If you're number 1, the weakest player you're going to play is number 32, rather than sometimes going and playing the number 1,000 in England. And I know that this stuff has to happen, and it should happen at the nationals, I think, where the unexpected results come. I know we need that in sport, but that come in events when we're not trying to get juniors and the cadets good. So I would try and change I think I agree, like there's loads of tournaments, which is amazing. And I know that I've been to Ireland last year and stuff, and that's the big problem there. There's not enough tournaments. And so basically my point is, I have no issue with the amount of tournaments, Rory. I think you have a great point. We provide a lot of opportunities, but how many of them are real good quality, I don't know. It's my answer. And especially 4-stars. You're paying a lot of money. You can go there and play 4 matches and go home. And I think, okay, if you're number 1 in the country and trying to play for England, that's perfect for you. But if you're number 10 and then you get like 80, the person that's ranked 80, 90, and then someone ranked 40 in your group and you win all your matches easy and then you lose to someone, as an example, Cheyenne last year, what have you learned? You've learned probably 0 from that tournament. And I think our kids are far behind in Europe because we're not putting them under enough pressure. They're not playing enough matches under pressure. I mean, a lot of people talk about them playing and having better practice. And, the practice here isn't good enough. That's why we go away. The tournaments here, the matches are not close enough until you get to the later rounds. You probably have to play 7 matches to get to a later round.
I think that's where your banded competitions come in and your constellation events and, for the lesser players, maybe 4-stars don't do that.
Yeah. And not all 4-stars do that. That's what I mean. I'm not saying this is all 4-stars, but yeah, that's my point. Next. Who's next?
So,
Gavin.
Yes, Gav, yeah.
I'm up. Well, I have to admit, as I said before this, I wasn't 100% familiar with the system, so I came up with about 3 questions. So now I'm trying to decide which one to ask, but I think I'll stick with this one because it was the first one that came into my head, and the commercial and promotional world of table tennis and its stature in the world of sport is something that interests me and how to make it better. So I'm going to stick with this one. It's a little bit fun as well. But if you could take one player from any sport, any current player from any sport in the world, and transfer them and turn them into a table tennis player overnight, who would it be and why? So taking in the biggest names in the world, or whichever names you want. I know I thought of a lot of guys. Could I get an Irishman in there, or to bring an Irish player into the top scene in table tennis, or the guys like Federer and Ronaldo and all these guys? Who would you take and why? So I'll put it out to you guys first anyway.
Go on, V.
Oh, me first.
I'm still scratching my head, that's why.
It would probably be someone like Nadal. Simply because obviously it's a racket sport already. Transferable skills would probably work quite nicely. But then he's got that bit of flair to him, The girls like to watch him on TV and see his muscles and all that lot. And you got to hit that whole sort of community, really, And he's a massive, massive star, wherever he goes, it's Nadal, and he could bring some sort of limelight to the sport, probably. I mean, I have to say two people. It's either that or someone like Messi to play football and try and get some of that crowd. But to be honest, you're more likely. I think Nadal will take it anyway. Definitely for me.
Yeah, I'll go next. So you lot don't steal my answer. Maybe a little bit of a shout out because we've got a couple of Irishmen on the show as well. But I'll get someone like Conor McGregor in the sport, because that guy knows how to sell a match. I mean, it's sell a fight, obviously, but we're talking table tennis. So he would be able to sell the sport. He'll bring that charisma, fight into it. And I think table tennis needs a little bit of that, I think in the ping pong, they're trying to, I know, obviously, create characters, and we're built into characters. I think everyone's a bit too kind. I think one of my best parts of the ping pong most recently was when Fleming took a point off Maxim, because Maxim was taking too long, or whatever happened with the umpire, but Fleming just took it, just crack on. Or when Zhang Jike kicked the barrier in half. I just love that stuff. So, and I think table tennis needs a little bit more of that. So that's my answer.
Nice. I'm going to go with Tyson Fury, because I just think the guy, 2 years ago, everyone writing him off, people talking bad about him, but this and that, and now just completely changed it around, and he's got every market following him. He's got people that are badasses following him. He's got now my nan loves him. It's weird. Everyone, I think he's just he's a great advocate for sport, as in anything can happen, and table tennis needs a bit of that. It needs to you don't know what he's going to do next. Even Fury on his press conferences and all the way he behaves, a bit like McGregor. You don't know what's coming next, and obviously he doesn't lose, does he? He beats everyone up, so that does help. So yeah, I'm going to go Tyson Fury with that one.
Okay, so me, well, the only other sport I know anything about or watch is tennis. I know nothing about any other sport, so I'd have to go with Federer, simply because I think his style would suit table tennis. His single-handed backhand, obviously, he's a legend. He's a bit like a Waldner from tennis. He's gone on, I guess he's probably 38, 39 now, a bit like Waldner was, and just won so many things, and everyone knows and everyone likes him. He's always got a good attitude on court and everything. So I think I'd pick Federer.
Nice. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, it's just a little bit of a funny question. I think if it was me, I would probably take Cristiano Ronaldo. I thought a lot about Conor McGregor, like Ashley said. I just think at the end of the day, even though I don't really like the perception of table tennis as a gentleman's game, I think he might be a little bit too far. He might push the boat a little bit too far and bring the sport into disrepute. So I don't think I'd go for him to bring the Irish in. But yeah, I'd go for Cristiano. He's the most followed athlete in the world, makes the most money in the world. You can't go to any country and you don't know Cristiano. So imagine I think it's the same for a lot of the names you said. But I think he's the biggest, and he's a great character. He's a leader. He promotes things really well. And I think that's probably the biggest problem with table tennis players on the top level at the moment. I don't know if it's through fault of their own or through fault of the organizations around them, but they don't have the platform to be stars, and they don't do themselves justice in how good athletes they are or promote themselves very well. So yeah, I would go for Cristiano anyway.
Nice. I think that was a good question, actually. Nice little debut there. Nice debut question. No, that was a good question. Anyone want to come back to anything? I think it is a little bit on the players to sell themselves, to go out looking for sponsorships and promoting themselves. Be out there, you know. I'm not saying do things like this, but you know, be out there a bit more with your profile and your fans engage a bit more, I suppose. What do you lot reckon?
No, I agree. Like, yeah, 100%.
I think it'd be massive as well to get someone like one of them big names that's sponsored by like Nike to come involved and get involved in table tennis. I mean, I saw an advert the other day for like a Nike table tennis table. I thought, oh, imagine if they actually did start like trying to like push their way into table tennis. Like kids will get Nike table tennis shoes and stuff like that. It would be.
Adidas tried that a few years ago and they stopped, didn't they?
Yeah.
I had a pair of the Adidas shoes. I like them.
Yeah, so did I. I had some of the rubbers as well at one stage as well.
That's a good question, because it makes you realise, actually, I know we do have characters in table tennis or whatever, but yeah, like, just not getting enough out there. I know Will Bailey's got a big following, but if we're strictly dancing and all, or dancing on ice or leaves,
exactly.
But you know, I think, yeah, we need to try. I see Michael Majors on TV the other day as well in his country doing some dancing thing. He promotes himself quite well, to be fair.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the good ones. You know, he's one of the biggest sports stars in Denmark, and he's kind of created that profile of the cool guy. You know, and that's what the top players now don't do enough. You know, they're, like I said, they don't do themselves justice on how good they actually are as athletes. Yeah, and I think another problem, and this might be a little bit unfair, but the problem with the players is that actually the interviews are terrible because their English is not good enough. You know, and I know I'm in a lucky position. I speak English, same as you guys. So even though I might not sound good in an interview, it's not good for the viewer. You know, if somebody's gone, I think I make training good or match good, you know, it's never enjoyable to listen to that. And we're never going to be a massive global sport on the TV if the characters are not speaking like the English rolls off the tongue, like Federer or Djokovic or Cristiano Ronaldo or whoever we're talking about in any sport, you know.
Nice. All right, Rory, you're up.
Okay, so like I said earlier, I find it really difficult to come up with a question. But okay, so the one I've gone with is to do with the English ranking system. They're talking about changing it. They sent out a survey. So the current system is you accumulate points mainly based on your opponent. So depending on how high above you they are, you gain a certain amount of points. And you can lose points depending if you lose to somebody below you or even slightly above you. You can gain a few bonus points at 2 stars and above, but it's not really significant. They're talking about kind of changing to more what the ITTF has done, because they had a similar system before, and they've gone to more the tennis system where it's based on how far you get in a tournament. Based on your last certain number of tournaments. I'm not sure exactly, 8 or 10 tournaments. And they're talking about bringing the same kind of system into English rankings. And I just wanted to know what everybody thought of that.
Who do you want to go first?
Daniel.
That's a very good question, that is, because I'm conflicted as well. Like that is a very good question, because like no one can hide with the new ITTF system. No one can hide, so you can't get loads of points and then not play competition. So it's making all the best players play more. Obviously, otherwise you lose your points and go down, because if someone gets to the semi-final or whatever. But it's really, really difficult. That is. The problem we have with that in England is that, so will they go by the English ranking list in the juniors? Say if a 16-year-old moves abroad and doesn't play the competitions in England, but is the number 1 in the country, they're not going to be no longer number 1 in the country. If you understand what I'm saying,
That could happen anyway, couldn't it? That could happen at the moment.
It could happen anyway, but it doesn't happen for some reason or another. But if they change this system where lots of people are going to get to a semi-final or a final, it's going to be week in, week out. People just go into any tournament, like Vidal said. I think
they'd have to come over, wouldn't they? Like, for example, I have to go over to Ireland to play the Vets tournament.
That's what I mean. So they'll have to fly back, and I don't know if that's fair on them. Maybe people say it would be fair on them. Maybe they have to fly back a lot more. But it's so hard. The problem I have with it is, are they going to stop good players playing 1 stars?
I don't think so.
So if I was playing a 1-star and I got to a final, I get this, or I won the 1-star every week, would I get just to get into a final, would I get...
I think different events will have different weightings. So it'll be based on your last...
Points? If I was number 1 in the country and I won a 1-star, would I get points?
You wouldn't get very many for it, I don't think.
Okay. I quite like the new system because people can't hide. I actually quite like the new system. People can't hide. So people have to play a lot, but yeah, it's pros and cons to both. So my answer on that is, if the ITTF are doing it, I think England should copy. I think every country should do what the ITTF are doing. I don't think we should be any different. Because the kids who are our next generation, we want them to go and get used to that system. So I would definitely replicate what the ITTF are doing. Whatever they're doing, I would replicate it. That's my
cool. Good. Vito?
Yeah, I think very similar to Daniel. I think it definitely needs a change. ITTF 1, I think, is a better system. The thing I would say, though, is, like I said, unless the tournament structure sort of changes with it, it's difficult to sort of like weight them accordingly, sort of thing, you know? I would like to see our homegrown players play in England more and playing more tournaments, and this structure might help to do that. The only other thing you've got to bounce off that, though, is are players going to be selected for England based on their ranking and not just because someone thinks they're good enough then, you know? Because otherwise you could get into a situation where the best player in the country is now number 9. Does he get picked for England? You know, when you've got 8 other people that are ranked above him. How's that actually going to work? Because, I mean...
Got to go with the ranking list, I say.
Yeah, and then that means then people have to sacrifice current contracts that could pay quite a bit to then have to, you know, come back and play and stuff like that, which could be difficult for the seniors. But well, I think if that's the rules, that's the rules. But then if we do set rules, then there can't be any sort of like skipping over them like has tended to be in the past. You know?
They might give credit for international matches and tournaments or club matches, I'm not sure. But
that's another thing then. If you put international tournaments on ours, then that's actually a detriment to all the other players because only a certain few can play in international tournaments. Not every, like I can't turn up and say I want to play in an international tournament. You have to get approval from Table Tennis England and the England squad put on to be able to represent England at that tournament. And you can only do that if an England player isn't playing in it. So, you know.
Yeah, so one set of people would have the international tournaments and the others would have the local ones, I suppose, and give equal credit. Maybe.
It would never be an equal credit though, innit? You know? Because, you know, I don't know if you know, but you could still go to an international tournament and play someone from a country that's no better than some of the players that play at our sort of like 1-star, 2-star level and still get but an international point from it.
Well, that's something to be looked at, I guess, isn't it, really?
Well, that's the current flaw. If you've got money, you can take yourself far, far away where the players are not good, get to the top 16 and you're automatically picked for England because you've made a top 6. That is in the criteria now for selection. If you make a top 16 of an ITTF event, you're automatically selected to represent England.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So
currently, people with money, people with money, it's okay. If you don't have much money, it's not okay.
Yeah.
Shall I pass over to Gavin?
Yeah, it's a really, really difficult question. Not only because I don't know the British ranking system that well, but if no ranking system is going to be perfect and it's going to leave somebody or a majority or a minority unhappy either way, no matter what happens.
It's a bit more like the Irish ranking system, actually, the ITTF, because you get points based on where you finish rather than for beating people.
Yeah,
right?
and I do like elements of ours, you know, but ours is actually so far wrong that the elements I like are no longer valid, you know, because it's like Vidal said, if the tournament structure is not right and the weighting is not right, then the ranking system is definitely not going to be right. You know, for example, I'm the best example I can think of. I won most of the tournaments. I played almost every tournament for 3 years in Ireland. I think I won 90% of them. I didn't play 2 tournaments this season starting, and then I was automatically overtaken as number 1 in Ireland without anyone having beaten me. And so guys that were reaching semi-finals all the way semi-finals and never having a chance to get a win against a guy that was top 4 or top 5, they were becoming number 2 in Ireland. And I don't think that's fair either, without having actually beat the guys that are ahead of you. Fair enough if the guy ahead of you is not playing any tournaments and he's totally dodging you, but I wasn't dodging. You know, I wasn't playing 2 tournaments for different reasons, and all of a sudden I'm gone as number 1, and I think that's unfair. So yeah, you've got to get the structure and the weighting right in order for the ranking system to be right. So I think the IPTF route is probably correct. Most sports are like that as well. I think now, you know, tennis is very similar to that. You have your position point at one tournament 1 year, and if you don't meet that position the following year, you'll lose those points, or you'll gain more points if you go further than you did last year. You know, and it's your best 5 results counted, I think. So I think if that's the direction that most sports are taking, it's probably a good one, like Daniel was saying there. And I think we all need to row in the same direction.
Ashley?
Right. Yeah, it's difficult being in a chat with 4 coaches, but I really couldn't care less, to be honest. I mean, let the coaches coach, the players play, and whoever creates the ranking list, they can create it however they want. And I just think that, also, I might rustle a few feathers here. I just don't think it's that important. I think the head coach picks the England team, like Jose Mourinho picks the Tottenham team, and it's on them to select the best player. That's what they get paid for. If you disagree, you got to take it on the chin, and you just got to be better. And I don't know why the ranking list is such an important factor. But I just, yeah, I'm kind of staying away from that. I know I'm not avoiding any questions. I mean, you can come back to me, but I just don't really see it as such an important thing at all.
I got a question on that then. If that was sort of like the case, which is, I actually think it's quite an interesting point. Like, they just pick who they think is the best players. But if that was the case, sort of like, there'd be no need for tournaments. You could just play leagues. So the whole tournaments just get thrown out the window because, right, I'm just going to select them off my league performance.
No, because
and
obviously some tournaments...
Only the players that then play in, like, British leagues, and then the England selectors would have to go to, like, more league matches.
No, because I think you have tournaments similar to how you have FA Cups because of the knockout style of play. That's why you have tournaments. You don't have tournaments for ranking points. That would be my comeback to that. And yeah, you could just have leagues if England and teams were only playing in leagues. But I do believe there's a singles national championship, so you do need some like knockout phase tournaments. But other than that, so in England, Gavin Evans, he coaches the team. I'm guessing he selects it. If he doesn't, I think there's a real issue there. And then if he doesn't select the so-called best players and they don't get the results, then obviously at the end of his contract, they can part ways. If they're happy with him, they'll keep him on, like how it happens in any other football team, football management.
Wait, that's interesting that you're saying that. You know, that is what happens in football. And people would never agree with that in table tennis. That's always been an issue.
There's no ranking list in football, is there?
But that's the point. There's no ranking list.
I just said it's not that.
But you do have Premier League players and you do have League Two players.
Oh, that's what the coach gets paid for, isn't it?
If Gareth Southgate wanted to go out tomorrow and pick a conference player to play for England, they would play.
Yeah, it's up to you to say
I'm just playing devil's advocate. I look at it the way you just said it. I'm on board. I hate it. It should be like they usually put in place these certain things. Oh, you have to play 1 4-star to qualify to play whatever. I've been for years. Some people don't ever play a 4-star and they're still playing these tournaments. So, like, I just think sometimes the criteria, if you have a criteria, it should be followed, and sometimes it's not. But you know, like, it's a very interesting point that you make because it's on Gavin then. Like, Gavin's got the pressure on his shoulders, paying more money, you'd probably say, if he wants that pressure. But I don't know.
But if you coach the team and you don't select it, that would be my issue. I'd be like, why am I coaching a team and I'm not even getting to select it? I'm not just obviously talking about senior national. I'm talking about the Irish national team, the junior, whoever selects the team, coaches the team should select it because it's on there. It's kind of on your head. And you want that pressure. That's why you get into the sport. That would just be my bit about it. In regards to the ranking list, I don't care.
I actually quite agree with you. Actually, I think it's if I wanted to select a team, I wouldn't be looking at the Irish ranking list. You know, of course, it's in the criteria, and I'll have to look at it that way, and I will take it into some sort of consideration. But for me personally, it's not my primary consideration. I look at what a player can do on the table, how I've seen them play, can they get results, and those kind of questions. You know, will they get a win for me under pressure when the team is 2-2 going into a big match at the European Championship? That's the guy I want on my team. You know, not the guy who's been able to be second in all the Irish tournaments and and then all of a sudden he's number 2 on the ranking list. But is he a winner? Probably not.
Yeah, but I think that there's another issue that comes with that then, is that whoever picks the team, whether it be juniors or seniors or that, they would have to be in the country more watching players play.
Yeah.
Because currently, you know, the system doesn't allow for that, does it? You know?
That's a very good point. I think
They would only select going off of, oh, this person's just popped up on the ranking list at number 5. Who's he? Like, that's how it could be. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Yeah, if it was a bigger sport, in an ideal world, you like in football, obviously you have scouts and Gareth Southgate, whoever could send as many people he wanted out, go and have a look at that one, go and have a look at that one, and he trusts these people, yeah? But Gavin Evans don't have them people going out, so you could have someone that, you know, is really good, but he's never been seen. How does he break into the squad? Because as a person, whether you like it or not, some people have their squad. They don't care about outside, they're never looking outside. But if you're never looking outside, you're never going to find anything.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, especially going into the Olympics, like, you've still got the possibility of sort of like Rumgay and Andrew Bagley possibly playing for England and being of that level, but not playing for England, sorry, playing for Great Britain and being of that level, but possibly not getting selected.
I think the key that we're missing on that one is money. You know, in football, the players are getting paid, so they have to put up with the manager's selections. You know, you're not getting paid to represent England, or you're not getting paid to represent Ireland, but actually the English football team is getting paid. So of course they also have to go with the manager's selections. It's a catch-22 situation. You know, you want to be able to pick the best team, but there's no money involved.
But yeah, no, I agreed. My final thing before I hand it to Rory, because I knew I rustled a few feathers there, but if I was, let's say junior, cadet, let's say cadet, because none of us mentioned that. Let's say cadet national coach of Uzbekistan. Yeah, if I'm coaching that team, I'm selecting that team. And I think if someone else is selecting the team that you're coaching, I think that's just weak. And I think you need to step up. And if you select the wrong team and they don't get the results, they're not happy with you, then you'll terminate your contract and you'll go elsewhere. If you do a good job, they'll love you. And we've seen people go abroad from other countries and do a great job because that's what they believe. They believe in themselves and they take the control. I think probably from Ireland, Murphy is probably a good example. Now he's gone to Australia and I'm sure he's doing good there and he's galvanising that team. So just obviously all of us are coaches in here, or I was formerly a coach. You'd want that responsibility, I'd say. But hand over to Rory anyway. Do you want to end us off, Rory, on your question? It's a good one.
Yeah, just quickly answer your question about, you know, selection. I don't like the idea of subjectivity. I like, so you go by the ranking list and there's no arguments. You know, the players have to just get where they should be on the ranking list, and if they're not there, they need to do something about it. I don't like the idea of just coach picking out random numbers because they think that he looks good or they think he'll do better. But to answer my own question, I think yes, they should try to bring in the kind of new ranking system. I think it's worth giving it a go. I'm not sure if it's definitely going to be better. It sounds pretty good. It might get some of the better players playing more. I don't know, it might actually make people who play regularly be higher, but I suppose if they cap it at a certain number of the last, I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10 tournaments, then that shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, I think it's worth a shot.
Cool. Oh yeah, it's over. But I just can't imagine someone like that coming to play in England. I just couldn't imagine him to come in to play in England. Like, what is it? It's going to be bad for English table tennis, and it's going to be bad for him.
Who?
Like someone like having to come back and play in a Grand Prix. Why?
Right. Why? I don't think they have to under the new system. I don't think I haven't read. I don't remember the full details.
Okay, that's good. If they don't have to do that, then that's good. Unless we have to make it better for them to want to come home. I don't think it should be the other way around. Okay, that's.
I think also if you're of a certain world ranking, you should be maybe pushed up to, like, you know, I know in Ireland, if we have one junior boy on Cathcart who's like top 20, top 30 in Europe, it's not really of major benefit for him to come home and play a junior boys tournament in Ireland. So if
I don't think Liam
ranking,
Pitchford would have to come back and play. I think the world ranking is taken into consideration, but you have to check.
Oh, that's good. If that the world ranking is, then it's perfect.
Right. Vidal's turn, isn't it, for a question?
What do you think of sort of like the whole internet coaching sort of thing? I mean, it's funny because pretty much my job at the moment is internet coaching whilst this virus is on, but in a different sort of way, not instructional videos. But like, what do you feel about that? And do you think then that takes away from like the whole learning experience in some way?
Shall I answer first then, as I started? I think it's only a very small part of what you can be doing to improve your table tennis. I think it's an element. I mean, if you haven't got access to a coach or a table, or especially in times like this where you can't play really properly, I think it's useful. I mean, you can learn techniques, you can watch people, you can kind of do imagery and visualization. But I think it's only going to take you a certain amount of the way. But there are ways it can be done. I mean, if you've got your own table and an opponent to play against, of good enough level to block for you, then if you've got a coach that can kind of guide you through what you're doing, and that could actually be a good way of doing online coaching. If you've already got a table and an opponent, and then the coach just joins you online and tells you what he wants you to do. But yeah, I would say, other than that, just watching instructional videos and watching YouTube, and I think it only takes you a certain way, but it's good as a starting point, or as if you can't play properly yourself.
Similar to what Rory said, it will only take you so far if that's all you do. But like anything on the internet, there's a huge range. Like, so it's like coach, it's like going out into the real world, to be honest. It's what coach suits you. There might be a really aspiring coach that you really enjoy his character, enjoy the way that he communicates to you, and you might take a lot from it. There might be others which don't. So it's up to you to take what you want. I think every coach should be on the internet. This is maybe debatable, but I think they should have some sort of digital toolkit or digital course or something like that, because that's just the way the world's going. And in times like this, if you had that already set up, you can still do your work. You can still have your kind of systems in place. But yeah, that's what I think about it. And if you want me to answer, if everything out on the internet is good, no, there's some absolute crap on there. I mean, or whatever, some rubbish. But you've also got some really good stuff. So you have to dig deep and see what works for you.
Oh, like that one. Gav?
Yeah, I'll dive in. Yeah, no worries. I guess when I first heard the question, I thought you were kind of talking more on a basis of like the Zoom coaching and stuff like that, and I actually think that's really beneficial at the moment. Obviously, in circumstances where you can't play, it's very good. But I actually think I'm going to introduce it into some of my coaching going forward. It's a really good way to get groups together, and if travel is an issue or being efficient is an issue. But anyway, moving on. I don't want to talk about that too much because that's not the question you asked, even though you didn't make it clear. I think instructional videos and stuff on YouTube, I think you just have to be a little bit careful. If you've got a player that you coach, kids are sponges, they'll take in all sorts of information. So you got to be a little bit careful that it's in a controlled environment. You don't want your kid going off for 2 months watching every video under the sun, and he comes back and he doesn't know what's left and what's right. But if you give him some homework, maybe to go and watch some videos, come back and you have a conversation about it when he does come back, then it's a little bit experimental for him, or him or her, and they can learn that way. But I think it has to be a little bit controlled, because there is, like Ashley said, there's a lot of rubbish out there.
I think the same as Gav. I've been doing a lot on Zoom and it works. But I think more of the stuff that I believe works on Zoom is the fitness side of table tennis, the shadow play side. They're being inspirational. I think on Zoom you can be inspirational to people, and you can show them certain things and speak in a certain way, and it's like being there. Whereas a YouTube video, just instructions, as we know, I'm not very good at being told instructions. I don't bloody listen. So if someone telling me to do that, I'll be going to do something else, and I don't think it's really good for me unless someone's there watching me carry out that instruction and guiding me. So yes, I would encourage to still watch those instructional videos, but get someone in to help you to make sure you're doing it properly.
I think the best instructional videos, in my opinion, are those Ping Skills guys from Australia. I think they cover everything, and they've got their premium videos and just the free ones, but I think they're the ones I'd recommend.
I fell asleep during one of those videos. I would say the best one, and I thought you was going to be onto something there. I thought you was going to talk about. I think they're called Pongfinity.
Oh, they're just fun
trick
videos.
shots.
They're also fun, but
That's what I'm on about. I just want fun. That's what I'm saying. There's no right or wrong. Like everyone's got something. Like you like the ping skills.
Yeah.
I didn't like the ping skills. I like the trick shots because when I see the trick shots and they're doing some mad stuff, that makes me want to grab a bat and play. Like I saw them do big table, which Vidal invented, by the way. So V, you get in touch with them. But I saw them playing that the other day. I wanted to play. But I saw ping skills. I didn't want to play.
You just got me back, actually. It's the importance of these things. It's how people sell these things is what's important.
Yeah.
You got people going on there doing an exercise, which is like an exercise thinking, oh, actually, if I can do this, I'm going to be really good table tennis player. It's the way they're sold. So Pongfinity, or whatever you're talking about, is very shot and very good. It's very fun, very engaging. Rory, your one's good if you want to sit there and do whatever, but actually they're sold in the right way. I think it's all about how you sell yourself, and what you're selling and what people are going to get out of it has to be clear. I wouldn't like to sell anything to people that they're doing and it ain't going to help them what they want. So I think you choose what you want from something or what you want from a channel. Like I love Table Tennis Daily. I love everything they do. I get to watch what people think of rubber. I just like it, so I watch it. But I might not watch some others. But it's what you want.
Yeah, last thing from me, sorry, V, and then it's back to you, innit? Last thing for me, like little pet hate, like it needs, if you're gonna do a YouTube video, okay, and I'm obviously with this little show, this is just for fun and we're just gonna bang it out there, but you gotta do it properly. You gotta have decent lighting, have a decent mic, like have the sound quality good, so you can, don't have some big obvious bait mic, hear a big speaker and it's rustling against your shirt every 2 seconds. Do you know what I mean? Have proper internet. Don't be borrowing next door neighbour's hotspot, V. Like do it. If you're gonna do it proper, and so it's visually good. Because I can't. If a video is not good, I switch off after 10 seconds. But that's just me anyway.
Yeah. I mean, the whole reason why I brought it up is, like, I'll be honest, I've watched some, when I want good coaching ideas sometimes, you know, because sometimes you can be stagnant. So you go on the internet and look for different ideas. And some of the stuff I watch is horrendous. And you wonder why they're doing it and stuff like that. And I started thinking, I should put out some videos. But then I also thought, everybody learns differently. And also, they take things in differently. And it's about the feeling of the ball. And if I say choose an exercise for someone, say it's backhand forehand middle, backhand forehand wide, like I could sit here and tell you why I think that exercise is good for you, but it's going to be totally different per kid that I coach. So I can't just give one explanation and expect that to fit everybody, you know, because the emphasis, if I do it with, say, someone who's 5 in England, someone with 25 in England, someone who's 100 in England, that same exercise is used for so many different things. I can use it to look at footwork or their body placement or their rotation, you know, so many different aspects. So it's about like what's right for that one person. You can't just broaden one exercise. Okay, this is good for that, and then that's it, because it's not. It's so many different variations depending on the players. So it's kind of like too hard. So like if I was to put out videos now, I think I'd just put out videos of different exercises, and it's up for coaches to then say to people, okay, this is an exercise which I think is good for this, or this exercise I think is good for this. But it's just so much different variations. I also think that some of the videos should probably be filtered as like levels of coaching ability on there as well, because sometimes you hear some of the stuff that people are talking about, you think, oh, you can never teach a kid that, you know, it just wouldn't work, or it's just wrong, you know. That's why I done it. But moving on to the new internet, with like a load of you have mentioned Zoom, I think we're on it now, you know. I think it is sort of like, I use it probably 4 times a day, 5 times a day at the moment to keep up with all the kids that I coach, whether that be fitness sessions, serving sessions, just keeping up to date with them, making sure they're doing everything, you know. It is sort of like the new future. I think it's good bonding as well for certain kids to like get together as well, like and learn off of it, you know. It's been really good. Yeah, that's my part.
I think you hit a good one there, actually, like about Pongfinity and playfulness, you know, for kids. That's the best way for kids to learn. I know, coming from a coach's perspective anyway, experimentation, playfulness, having fun, testing out things with feeling. That's how kids are going to learn how to touch the ball and how to play topspin and how to, okay, it might be a little bit silly and you don't want your kids playing around the net in the practice, but outside the practice, I think that's really good learning. And also just, I couldn't have you boys throwing out names like Pongfinity and the one that Ping Skills that Rory mentioned without giving my boys in Ireland a shout out. TT Fit. If you appreciate good production, actually, then you'll like TT Fit.
Actually,
check that out.
I've looked at that recently. Someone told me about the app for it and to go through it and stuff like that. That's been quite good, actually. Someone in Wales told me about it 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I checked it out.
Yeah.
It was quite good, yeah. Not
Nice.
bad for mine, isn't it? Yeah.
All right.
I think that's a good question though, because it is true. Like, I think the internet is the way forward, but it's just you have to pick the right stuff for yourself, right? Like, I agree with Gav. Like, when you're young, I think the worst thing that can happen to you when you're young is you get coached straight away and you're overcoached and you play the way someone else wants you to play. I think you have to have freedom, and then you can be coached. Like, a good example is Pitchford. Like, he used to play backhand from the middle, he used to lob, he used to do all of these things, but he's created his own style. Whereas, sometimes being overcoached or listening to someone all the time doesn't allow you to be yourself, which is a big issue, not only in table tennis, but in your head. Not only for your skills, but in your head. You see some people not actually, like, if you're a patient person, maybe you'll be a chopper, and maybe that's the right thing for you, and you could get that coached out of you. So that's a really good point that you're saying. And like, it comes with the videos like Vidal and everyone's agreed with. Watch what you think is beneficial to you, and just know by watching that what you're going to get. And I think, yeah, it's a good question.
I went to
like, there's some really good stuff out there with tennis balls that are for hand-eye coordination. And if they're sold for hand-eye coordination, it's brilliant, because that stuff is really important from a 1-year-old all the way up to an 8-year-old. So, but just know what you're going to get from watching each video that you watch, I would say.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks, V, for getting everyone together, man. I wouldn't have done it if it weren't for you. So I'm free. If anyone wants to do anything, let me know, man. I'm free. And yeah, thanks, Gav. Thanks, Rory, coming on.
Nice one.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
Nice one. All the best, guys.
See you later.
See ya.
See you later.
Yeah.